I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, a landmark immigration bill passes in the U.S. Senate. What will happen when it goes to the House?
I'm Peggy Pico. Also ahead, we'll take an in-depth look at how the Supreme Court's ruling on Prop 8 could change the voter initiative process in California and throughout the country. Then young widows from across the country head to San Diego for an annual event that helps heal the hearts of those left behind.
And we'll have the latest in the battle over San Diego's annual ritual of bats, beer, and babes, known as Over the Line. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Today, the U.S. Senate passed an immigration reform bill offering a path to citizenship for millions of people living in the country illegally. It also promises a military-style surge along the Mexico border. The vote was 68-32, with both of California's senators voting yes. The no votes all came from Republican senators. The bill's prospects are uncertain in the GOP-controlled House. The Speaker there, John Boehner, has already said the House would write its own version with a focus on border security. Over the Line will proceed as normal in San Diego after Mayor Bob Filner signed permits today for the Raucous Beach Party. KPBS Metro reporter Sandia Dirks joins us from the News Center with an update. Sandia, for those San Diegans who don't already know, what is Over the Line?
Well, it's a sporting competition that happens over 2 weekends in July. The actual sport is a bit like baseball, but with a lot less players and a lot more booze and, well, exposed flesh. Some people call it babes, beer, and bats. And as many people in the city know, it's kind of a beloved institution. Maybe it's a bit bacchanalian, but it's also quintessentially San Diego. And it's been going on for over 60 years.
And there was some doubt or question about it actually happening at all this year. Why?
Well, because of a lawsuit. There's a nonprofit in Pacific Beach. They call themselves Free PB, and their crusade is to get the city to let people drink on public beaches and in parks. They say when they asked the city to let them hold events, they got shut down. And they're accusing San Diego of giving Over the Line special treatment.
And the mayor has weighed in on this, too, as well, right?
Yeah, I talked to the mayor, and he told me that, the group might be right. The city might have a double standard when it comes to Over the Line. And he says, yes, the city needs to fix that and be consistent with issuing permits. But he says, don't sacrifice something that's a city institution.
One group thought they were treated unfairly, and we need to explore that. If they were, then we need to remedy it. But let's not stop San Diego's traditions from moving forward.
And Filner promises to look into unfair issuing of permits once Over the Line is over. Oh, and on an added note, the mayor says he will be in attendance at this year's event.
All righty. KPBS Metro reporter Sandia Dirks. Governor Jerry Brown has signed the new state budget. He says it's the first balanced spending plan to become a reality in California in more than a decade. The new budget includes billions more for schools and begins to restore social services cut during the recession. The office in charge of San Diego's marriage licenses is getting flooded with phone calls after the Supreme Court ruling yesterday to lift California's ban on same-sex marriages. The county recorder was keeping a waiting list to let couples know when they could start the license process. But now they're telling folks to check the county website. They're waiting for action from a federal court. That's not expected until next month. In the meantime, the Obama administration is working on some issues with the ruling on the Defense of Marriage Act. The justices said federal benefits cannot be denied to couples who are legally married, but there are questions about couples who marry in one state, then move to another where same-sex marriages aren't legal. The president says people should be treated equally.
If you've been married in Massachusetts and you move someplace else, you're still married. And that under federal law, you should be able to obtain the benefits of any lawfully married couple.
Celebrations of the Supreme Court decisions were heard well into the wee hours in Hillcrest early this morning, with almost as many flags as people at the corner late last night of University Avenue and Normal Street. Hundreds of people were cheering, hugging, laughing, and just mingling. Some told us the ruling removes a stigma and changes their futures.
It means a lot. It means that I'm going to be able to one day be able to tell people I have a wife and, not be able to be ashamed of it or just be able to have pride in it and be treated equally.
I grew up in the Midwest, though, so I still, we still have a long battle ahead of us. There are many states. A majority of the U.S. still does not recognize same-sex marriage, and it's a civil rights issue.
The Supreme Court's ruling on Proposition 8 could impact the initiative process in California and 26 other states. Peggy Pico explains why.
The Supreme Court's decision on California's Prop 8 has made, by default, same-sex marriage legal again in California. But the reason behind the ruling could undermine voter-approved initiatives in our state and 26 others. Here with more on what's at stake are political science professor Thad Kauser and San Diego attorney Dan Eaton. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Dan, the justices decided that Prop 8 backers had no legal standing. What is this criteria for legal standing?
What Chief Justice Roberts in the majority opinion was saying was, look, to be able to appeal the court's ruling that struck down Proposition 8, you had to have suffered concrete and particularized injury under the U.S. Constitution, which allows you to go forward in federal court and federal appeals. And what Chief Justice Roberts pointed out was the district court order didn't order the proponents of Proposition 8 to do anything. It was directed at state officials and said you can't enforce Proposition 8, and to county officials and said go forward with the licenses.
So when it comes with a concrete injury, perhaps people wanting to get married could argue that they are suffering injury because they're not allowed to, but the backers of Prop 8, they weren't suffering any injury.
Had the same-sex couples who sought to be married lost Proposition 8, they would have had standing to appeal, of course, because they would have been deprived of their right to marry.
Thad, how could the issue of the standing impact our initiative process here in California?
Well, I think regardless of how you feel about the policy implications of this decision, allowing same-sex marriage in California, you can't argue that it's created great collateral damage for direct democracy, because what it means is that initiatives passed by the people, if the governor and attorney general and state leaders decline to defend them in court, and they are challenged so often, it means they don't get their day in court, and they could go by the wayside, not because they've lost in court, because they've never had that fight.
Four justices agreed with that, the initiative process in their dissent. Justice Anthony Kennedy said the court's majority failed to grasp or accept basic premise of the initiative process. He explained the essence of democracy is that the right to make a law rests in the people and flows to the government, not the other way around. Dan, what is he saying with this? Is it what that is saying?
Of course, yes. And what Justice Kennedy, of course, is a Californian. And what the basic issue is this. An initiative is a power given to the people to curb public officials. Well, what this ruling means is that those same public officials that the initiative process is designed to curb can de facto veto an initiative popularly passed by declining to defend it, at least for the purposes of a challenge brought in federal court.
Well, and in fact, Governor Brown, when he was Attorney General, did not defend it, saying that he thought that this was unconstitutional. Is there a valid legal argument for elected officials not defending what is, in this case, an initiative, but state law?
There is a strong argument, actually, Peggy, that they have a fiduciary obligation to defend the laws that are popularly passed, but that argument ultimately was not successful, and so here we are.
But Thad, this isn't the first time this has happened by far. Give us a little history of initiatives in California and what passes and what goes to court and what doesn't.
Well, California, since 1965, 69% of the initiatives passed by voters in California have been challenged in the court, and a third of the initiatives passed by voters have been actually thrown out by the court. So this happens all the time. We've seen it with Proposition 187, the ban on public services for illegal immigrants, thrown out. Prop 22, the statutory ban on gay marriage, was thrown out a few years ago. And initiatives that people on the left have like a campaign finance reform initiative, thrown out by the courts. This happens all the time.
Is it, Dan, is that a good thing? I mean, is it a good thing that these go to court, or is that really like our initiative process isn't so great if we're constantly having to go back to court to settle it?
Well, let's be clear. Courts throw out things that are passed by legislatures, and legislators vow to uphold the Constitution as well. That's what courts are for, and they ultimately have the last word.
Okay. And Thad, what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, I think we may see some calls to actually change California's constitution to explicitly grant a right to the proponents of initiatives to defend what they say in court. And I think if that was put before voters, probably would be pretty popular.
And Dan, do you think anything is going to move forward on this?
Well, I don't know if it'll ultimately pass, but it's not clear if and if it were to pass, it would pass muster in federal court, which is a critical issue for purposes of the Constitution.
All righty. Attorney Dan Eaton and political science professor Thad Kauser, thanks so much for this update.
Sure. Thank you, Peggy.
A federal grand jury has returned a 30-count indictment against the surviving suspect in the Boston Marathon bombing. The charges against Dzhokhar Tsarnaev include using a weapon of mass destruction. 3 people were killed and more than 260 wounded in the bombing last April. 5,000 people could get a jury summons in the Colorado theater shooting trial. It's one of the largest initial jury pools ever. San Diego native James Holmes is accused of killing 12 people during a Batman movie last year. 70 were injured. The trial is scheduled for February, but a Colorado mental hospital must finish its evaluation of his sanity first. And a San Diego man is being tried on vandalism charges for his chalk-written messages outside several local banks. 40-year-old Jeff Olson wrote anti-bank messages on sidewalks outside of 3 Bank of America branches last year. He says he was inspired by the Occupy movement. City Attorney's Office charged him with 13 misdemeanor counts. They carry a maximum sentence of 13 years and a fine of $13,000. Mayor Filner says the case is a waste of taxpayer money. Skiers and snowboarders will have a new way to get to Mammoth during ski season. Alaska Airlines says it's launching service from San Diego to Mammoth Lakes in December. The flight will take about 90 minutes one way. Getting around parts of San Diego will get faster next year. City officials kicked off construction today on Mid-City Rapid, a new express bus service running between downtown and San Diego State University. They say the new route will make the trip faster than the current service, and they say it's just the beginning of improvements for the Metropolitan Transit Service.
We will ramp up to more frequent service, where we're running 15-minute service now on weekdays. It will get down to 10 minutes, so people won't have to wait very long in these very nice stations. On the weekends, where we're running 20 and 30 minutes, we're going to be running 15 minutes, so that people can get where they want to go faster.
It's an opportunity to bring more business, more consumers to El Cajon Boulevard, or rather the Boulevard here in our Mid-City area.
The project includes new stations, new street lanes for buses only, and new buses. The Mid-City Rapid line is scheduled to start running next year. Some Social Security judges say a huge backlog of disability claims is pushing them to give benefits to people who may not deserve them. A congressional committee is looking into the high rate of approvals for claims previously rejected by field offices. At a hearing today, some of the judges said they've been pressured to get cases out the door as soon as possible, and it takes more work to deny a claim than to approve one. Agency officials say most claims are initially denied. More than 300 widowed men and women from across the country and the world are attending a special camp in San Diego this weekend. Peggy Pico talks with the founder of the camp.
The Soaring Spirits Lost Foundation is a nonprofit group that offers support and activities for surviving spouses, with a special focus on helping men and women who've become young widows. Their annual conference, Camp Widow, will be held in San Diego this weekend. Joining me is Soaring Spirits founder Michelle Neff Hernandez and TJ Englund, widowed at age 27. Thank you both for joining us here tonight.
Thank you, thank you.
TJ, you became a widow at age 27. Tell us a little bit about your wife and how she passed away.
My wife, her name was Letta, and I met her when I was 11 years old in a church Sunday school. We started dating, if you can call it that, at 11. We were together for 17 years. 7 of those years was in marriage. We have a son named Jordan, who's 6 years old, and then we went on to have our second son, and she passed away in childbirth, giving birth to our second son.
And baby Grayson, right? Because
yes.
we're seeing a picture of him. So now you have two children, and you're still single.
Yes.
You're still widowed. Okay. How did you wind up at Soaring Spirits?
Well, one of the things I say is that loneliness is not necessarily the absence of a person, but it's the absence of understanding in the presence of many people. So I was actively looking for a place that could understand the unique things that I was going through. So I just Googled it and Googled Widows Help, you know, and Soaring Lost Foundation showed up, and I was able to connect with Michelle, and she was able to help me from there.
We're going to come back to about your special needs of being a young widow in just a moment, but I want to ask you, Michelle, now I understand you started Soaring Spirits after your husband was killed in 2005 in a bike accident. Why did you start it, and how did you go about getting this thing started?
I started the foundation because I desperately wanted to find other 35-year-old people who were trying to understand how the word widow could apply to them. And what I first wanted was to answer the question, how long do you wear your wedding ring? Do widowed people wear black? Do you sleep on the same side of the bed you slept on? Do you sleep in the same bed? What do you do with all their things? And I couldn't find the answers to that, and I thought, well, the only people I could imagine that would know that is somebody who's actually had to do it. And so I set out about interviewing. I did 30 interviews of widowed around the country. Accidentally, I just told all my friends, I'm really looking for other widowed people if you know somebody. And every time they'd say, oh, I know somebody in Ohio, I would go to Ohio and meet with that person. What that brought to me was a community. Every time I walked into a room with another widowed person, we had this shared experience, and it was like we could finish each other's sentences. And when I was done with the interviews, instead of writing the book I thought I was going to write, I felt the need to create that community for other people.
Let me ask TJ, how has being in this group, you've been to Camp Widow last year, how has being in this group and connecting with these people, like Michelle was saying, impacted you?
Well, one of the main things is also it helps you to recreate a future. So, you know, when do I date again? What does that look like? You know, so I believe that you heal in community, not in isolation. And so it's helped me a lot to come together with people who can understand and help me for my next step.
So helping in the grieving process?
Yes.
Okay. Michelle, what happens at Camp Widow?
It's an interesting blend of social activities and content-driven workshops. And that's intentional. We want to create a space where people can meet others who are walking a similar road. We have workshops, for example, where you would have a discussion whether you were suddenly widowed or you were widowed to an illness. And we also have discussions, widowed people with children, widowed people without children. So kind of the idea is to put you in community with other people who have something similar with you, and at the same time provide content that is about recreating your life. What steps do I need to take for my future? And
this isn't a dating service. However, I understand that there's been 2 engagements and 3 marriages out of this, so I'll just put that plug in there. Camp Widow isn't just for widows, or only for widows, I should say. Who else can attend?
Camp Widow is for widowed people, no matter how they were widowed, whether or not they were married. So we do welcome fiancés, people who lost their life partners. We use a very loose definition of the word widow. It is specifically for widowed people, but we don't say that you have to be married to be widowed.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I want to let folks know basically what's going on this weekend and where they can find out more information. So, Michelle and TJ, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. Camp Widow San Diego, or Camp Widow West, as it's called, starts this Friday morning, June 28th, and runs through the weekend. There is a $375 registration fee, and for further details and for any opportunities to go to our website and follow the links on kpbs.org.
I'm Jeffrey Brown. On the next News Hour, President Obama's 3-nation visit to Africa, plus the Senate debate over immigration reform. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
Remember Beatlemania? We're talking about the real thing here, not about the tribute groups. We're talking John, Paul, George, and Ringo when they visited San Diego back in 1965. Ken Kramer gives us a look back in tonight's story about San Diego.
First thing is Balboa Stadium, just to the east of San Diego High, where the Chargers played, where there used to be 34,000 seats, and where on August 28th of 1965, the Beatles came to perform in San Diego. Lee Lewis was a photographer with Channel 10. It was a very big thing. There were concerns. Could there be trouble? What about the crowds? The Beatles were coming.
And they were on a United States tour, And they'd had some problems, I believe, in a concert in L.A. With the fans. It wasn't really a riot, but they'd had some problems. So the San Diego police geared up pretty well, and they brought a whole busload of police officers down to San Diego Stadium, to Balboa Stadium, for that event.
Weeks of anticipation and publicity, thousands of excited fans.
There were a lot of teenage girls there, lots of them, and they were screaming and running around, and they were all excited, and you can see that on the black and white film ahead of time.
Susan Barron remembers, yes, she was really excited, and she had an idea.
I wrote a letter to the mayor of San Diego, Frank Curran, at the time, and asked if I could give a key to the city to the Beatles when they came.
The mayor wrote back, said, "Come to my office, we'll give you a key and a press pass. You and 3 other girls get to meet the Beatles, follow them around wherever they go, and give them keys to the city of San Diego, okay." Now, meantime, Lee Lewis was getting a press pass, too.
It was I believe it was a Saturday night, and they were going to have a press conference ahead of the actual concert.
Under the watchful eyes of police and security guards and concert promoters and public relations people, there they were, John, Paul, George, and Ringo, the Beatles, as photographed by Lee, whose job was to stand sort of in the back and shoot the general scene, and he wasn't alone.
This is my little camera that I used to take pictures at the press conference.
Susan also started snapping away pictures of the Beatles in San Diego that she took with her little Kodak 127 film flash camera. She doesn't remember what they talked about. Did they say this was a nice city to visit or a good place to play their music? She was just overwhelmed by the experience, feeling like she must be the luckiest 14-year-old in the world, especially when the news conference ended and she got to just spend some informal time with the Beatles.
John asked me to help tie his little shirt thing that he was wearing, and George was watching television, and just everyone was doing their own thing, and we were just, milling about, and I just kept telling myself, don't cry, don't say anything stupid, because I didn't want to get kicked out of I didn't want to break any rules and be asked to leave, so I was petrified.
Finally, it was time for the concert itself. The press wasn't supposed to bring cameras in, but...
Well, I had a small silent bell and howl camera that I stuck under my coat.
And from a distance in San Diego, in that August of 1965 in Balboa Stadium, there they are. On just a few seconds of film, the Beatles in town. Something in the scope of history that's really kind of rare. And afterward, the crowd did go a little crazy. They rushed at Susan, grabbing anything that had to do with the Beatles.
They took my press pass, they took a piece of chicken that Ringo had given me, which I was going to hold on to forever.
But when the concert was over and the Beatles left the venue, all these girls rushed out of the bleachers down to the grass, to the stadium grass, and they were pulling the grass out of the lawn where the Beatles had walked and were eating it.
Now, what, a half-century later, Susan may not have that piece of chicken from Ringo, but she has plenty of other bits of memorabilia.
They are the nylons that I wore the day that I met the Beatles.
Pins and ticket stubs for all the times she went to see the movie Hard Day's Night. There it is.
That's it.
And yes, Lee still has the camera he smuggled in under his coat in 1965. So shame on you for sneaking it. You shouldn't have ever done that, but boy, am I glad you did.
Me too. Me too.
As for Susan Barron, now that the Beatles have become these historic, almost mythical figures in music and popular culture, it's even more astonishing what she was able to do, just because she had the strength of inspiration to write that letter.
People used to say to me that, you don't talk about it very much, and it was just because it was so surreal to me that I don't think I believed that I did what I did.
But she did, and he did, and all these years later now, they both have a pretty amazing story to tell about San Diego.
And if you want to see more of Ken's stories about San Diego, his half-hour show can be seen tonight and every Thursday at 8 on KPBS. We still have an excessive heat warning out for parts of the county. Coastal temperatures are expected to be in the 80s and 90s over the next few days. Upper 90s for the inland valleys, 90s for the mountains as well, and fire restrictions go into effect tomorrow morning for the Cleveland National Forest desert temperatures will be around 116 through the weekend. Recapping tonight's top stories, U.S. Senate passed an immigration reform bill offering a path to citizenship for millions of people living in the country illegally. It also promises a military-style surge along the border with Mexico. Speaker John Boehner has already said the House would write its own version with a focus on border security. PBS NewsHour will have more on the vote in just a moment. And the annual Over the Line tournament on Fiesta Island will go on as scheduled next month. Today, Mayor Filner signed a permit allowing the Old Mission Beach Athletic Club to go forward with the event, which is more known for drinking than for athletics. A Pacific Beach group has sued, claiming Ambach is getting preferential treatment. FreePB.org has been trying to get approval for alcohol-related events, but has been turned down every time. And Governor Brown has signed the new state budget. He says it's the first balanced spending plan to become a reality in California in more than a decade. The new budget includes billions more for schools and begins to restore social services cut during the recession. You can find tonight's stories and download the KPBS app, all on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.